I think I'm almost out of propane on this, so I'm going to keep it down kind of low, even though it's quite cold out here. I want it to last through tonight at least. Turn it down just a little bit lower. Well, good evening, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Jobu Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. You notice something? Here's where it's kind of comical. Remember when DeAndre Hopkins was out there and he was working out with Des Bryant, and we heard he kept saying, "What's up, Cowboys? What's up?" And he wanted to come to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys didn't pick up the phone and give him a call. And when he did finally sign with the Tennessee Titans, he was kind of butthurt and basically saying that this was going to be his revenge tour. And what people said was the Cowboys don't care about winning. Cowboys, Jerry Jones, they're being cheap. You know, when the Eagles, when Julio Jones was out there, remember? Julio Jones. You know, when you think about DeAndre Hopkins and you think about Julio Jones, oh my God, Julio Jones, when the Atlanta Falcons spent 2 number ones to draft him, he was freaking incredible. Oh, wow. He was great. And he's had a hell of a career. But that Julio Jones that the Eagles signed is not really doing that great. You think about the safety, Kevin Byard, that the Eagles signed. Oh my God, the Eagles, they went out, they got Kevin Byard. Cowboys, they weren't in the mix for him. Didn't think about it. We would always hear Stephen Jones say, "We like our guys." The talking heads would say the Cowboys, they should go get Odell Beckham Jr. They could use a guy like Kevin Byard. You know, they were always telling us that the talent that we have is not good. That, you know, Mozzie, you know, as Eagle fans would always say, I don't see them anymore. I don't see them anymore, but they would say Mozzie bad. And so, you know, now that Hankins has gotten hurt, people are saying, well, maybe the Cowboys should sign Ndamukong Suh. Ndamukong Suh, you remember him with the Detroit Lions and with the Tampa Bay and with the Rams and things. But that guy is not the same guy. He was with the Eagles last year. He played a role on a great defense and stuff. So you constantly have heard the Cowboys don't want to win. And we've done this. I'll be honest with you. I know I've said this. Because I said, man, if you could get DeAndre Hopkins out there along with Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb, man, that's a stop. You can play the slot and stuff. You know, we had these conversations. I know with my man Game Time Brian and stuff. We all looked at this and we dream and say we got the dream wide receiving core. We'd be unstoppable. But the Cowboys, we would kill them for saying they wouldn't get it. We like our own guys. The talking heads would kill them because they'd say they didn't care. In the same way, they said the Cowboys, oh, they just hurt themselves by getting rid of Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore made the Dallas Cowboys offense and Dak Prescott, you know, great. And they killed them. Here's the thing. Stephen Jones was right. Mike McCarthy, you now have to look at this because people kept saying Mike McCarthy's a bum. He had Aaron Rodgers and he only won 1 Super Bowl. Maybe Mike McCarthy wasn't the problem. maybe Mike McCarthy wasn't the problem. Maybe it was the diva Aaron Rodgers. Now we're getting a different Aaron Rodgers now that seems to be, older and more mature and kind of changing the way he's doing some of these things. But as we look at guys like Julio Jones, that people said, we need to sign Julio Jones. Oh, the Cowboys need to get him. Julio ain't doing nothing for the Eagles. You look at guys like Kevin Byard. Well, yeah, they signed that guy. Their defense can't stop anything. They literally can't stop anything. I remember people saying, Kyle Pitts. We should trade for Kyle Pitts because we got rid of Dalton Schultz. But here it is. Jake Ferguson's got more yards than Kyle Pitts. And Dallas Goedert and other guys. The funny thing now, this is what is crazy to me, is at least be consistent. Because now, when we heard people like Shady and Joy Taylor and some of these other people out there, the talking heads, they say the Dallas Cowboys have no talent, that they are weak. Now, all of a sudden, the new thing you're hearing about the Cowboys is the Cowboys, they destroyed the Eagles because they've got world-class talent. It's funny because nobody thought when the Cowboys got Deron Bland last year that he was going to be world-class talent, did they? Nobody thought that Terrence Steele was going to be able to be a starting right tackle when they picked him up as an undrafted rookie free agent. Nobody thought that Brandon Albury was going to set the NFL first season record and hit 30 straight to start his career. Nobody thought that the Texas Coast offense with Dak Prescott actually being in the West Coast offense, a guy who didn't necessarily work out perfect with Dez Bryant, because Dez Bryant was a guy who was a physical specimen who wasn't disciplined necessarily in his routes. Him and Tony Romo would make shit up. Tony would buy time and he would find and look for Dez Bryant and boom, and make magic happen. That's not to say that Tony Romo was better or worse than Dak Prescott. He's just a different quarterback. When I was today at the memorial service for Rashid, they asked me to read the eulogy. And when I got there, I'm looking at it. It's a full page, and you flip it over, it's a half page. And I'm looking at all the names on there, and I knew, because I am the name butcher. When I got up there, I said, I'm Mark Holmes. I'm honored to be able to be here for Rashid, my friend who's no longer here, and to read the obituary. And I want you to understand, I am the name butcher. So when I mispronounce people's names, understand this is not my power. And I said, Rashid's power was making people laugh. And sure enough, I butchered names. So when I talk about Dez Bryant and Tony Romo, it's not to say they were good or bad. They worked great together. With Dak being that more precise and timing guy, it didn't work as good with Dez Bryant, although Dez Bryant had his highest yards per year with Dak Prescott. Just saying. With Dak Prescott doing the bootlegs and doing the 3-step and fire or the 5-step and fire, where he is not getting beat down by the defenders and having receivers that are running the right routes and being precise, boom, it's working. And that is actually the genius of Mike McCarthy, that's got a quarterback who is doing the things the way he wants them done and having the right personnel. It may not be the all-star personnel that everybody thinks it should be. You can look that there's bigger names out there before this year of Deron Bland. And now the coaching staff, the Al Harrises, the Dan Quinns, the Mike McCarthy, the Brian Schottenheimers. Their vision and their teaching skill is making these players that nobody knew achieve more than people thought they could. The other point on this is too, and this is actually key. Sometimes you're better off with a lesser talent who has been there to understand what you are doing than getting somebody who has more talent who doesn't know what you're doing. You follow me? Because the thing about football is it's 11 guys on defense, 11 guys on special teams, 11 guys on offense. And when you're there blocking and doing your blocking assignment, there's a guy here in the B gap, and they're doing a stunt. I can block either of these guys. He can block either of these guys. But if we don't know who's supposed to block this guy, who's in the B gap, who's now going this way, and now this guy is coming around, if we don't understand the assignment there, and I'm sticking with this guy, and now he sees him coming across and he's sticking with that one, and nobody gets the edge rusher that's crashing on the inside, it doesn't matter how good either of these guys are if they're not doing their assignment. And so having guys that have been there through training camp, and when Dak Prescott takes the receivers like CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks and Jalen Tolbert and Michael Gallup, all these guys, and they work out at his house in the backyard on their practice field, they're ahead of some guys that may have more talent that don't. So to now have revisionist history and say, well, the Cowboys, they have world-class talent. They didn't think that shit before. We didn't think that shit before. But it turns out they've gotten the most out of their players. And I will add to this, forgive me, Greg Evans, we haven't had all of the medical malfunctions. Yes, we lost Diggs, that was huge, but we had Bland that stepped up. Yes, we had Tyron Smith early on, but Tyron Smith being healthy the way he has this season, them figuring out we need to give this guy just tons of rest and just keep him in bubble wrap till Sunday. It's been working. This offense that is moving Dak Prescott around, and the realization of, yes, we got rid of Zeke Elliott, but we're still actually now evolving the running game where you had Tony Pollard with 16 carries and you had Rico Dowdle having 12. This is like the mix that you had with Zeke Elliott. So they've taken the best parts of what we did last year. They've gotten better personnel, because you got to look at it and say, Jalen Tolbert is a hell of a lot better than he was last year. Michael Gallup still isn't quite there, but he's better than he was last year. And getting a guy like Brandon Cooks. And oh, mind you, how many people thought that going into this year, getting rid of Dalton Schultz, that Jake Ferguson would be the 8th highest receiving yardage tight end in the NFL, receiving more yards than Kyle Pitts, more yards than Dallas Goedert. And mind you, I know what you're going to say, Dallas Goedert, he was injured and missed some games. Yes, this is true. But yards per game, they're about the same. But Jake Ferguson got 5 TDs versus Dallas Goedert's 2. So that is the answer. I don't know that the Cowboys have more talent or world-class talent as the new talking point now is. The revisionist history about the Dallas Cowboys now are a good team. ignoring what they had said all year, all off season before, that the Cowboys don't care about winning, that they're just cheap. Now they got world-class talent. So, as I end this for the night, Rashid's sitting right there. You've seen this video since Rashid's passed so many times, saying, as long as the Eagles lose, I'm going to have a good week. I got to really know Rashid, unfortunately, when he was at his lowest, having had his toes amputated and living here. And I was fortunate enough, blessed enough, to get to know him on a different level than what you've seen on YouTube. I said Rashid's power was making people laugh. He was crazy with that. But I got used to seeing him every morning. He was always awake when I'd come downstairs. He'd tell me about what was being talked on the shows in the morning. And we'd have conversations beyond just football and stuff, in working on trying to get his situation in a better place, and working and coming up with solutions and things. And when I sit down in my studio, the bed was right across from where you guys would see. My desk is right there, the camera's right there, but right behind the cameras and the monitors was his bed, where I would see him every morning when I would do my morning video. And I miss that. I miss that. I always tell you all to be sure you tell the people you love how you feel about them. I've often thought about, there's nothing worse to me is everybody getting together to see you when you passed, as opposed to being able to see me or see them when they're alive and you can create memories with them. That's the big tragedy in life, and the biggest regret that I have for myself. The reason I tell you this every single night is I didn't know my brother Tony was as sick as he was and was dying. I was fortunate enough to talk to him the night before he passed, but I sure would have loved to have spent more time with him. You know, we fight and argue and waste so much time on things that just don't matter. We hate people we don't even know, that aren't even doing anything that's going to affect you or bother you. We want to control other people's thoughts, ideas, and lives behind closed doors, instead of enjoying your life. I saw something today with a billionaire, and this guy says, you know, money only gets you like 4 things, and I can't remember the 4 things, but he was talking about the artworks that he has in the house that are very expensive that he likes. He said, you know, you can buy a private jet. He said, I don't have a private jet. He said, I drive a Hyundai. He said, that's not what makes your life. It's doing on and doing good for others and the relationships on the way. And no truer words have ever been spoken. Money buys you stuff. And that's it. Stuff's nice, but it doesn't replace the relationships of people. I love you guys. And God willing, I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you all for listening to me and being part of this channel.